So that video I made, wow, that opened up a can of worms, and I received a ton of questions just about extension and flexion, and this is what you're doing. And then I'm going to add a little bit more. Your main speed producer is right here. This is it. So this is pretty much your swing. This is your main speed producer right here. And I'm going to get into,
I feel you've kind of been conned into thinking that this is about swinging, turning your shoulders and using your body, where in actual fact 70% of your speed and your face control comes from how well you use your wrists. Okay, so we want to get a very active wrist. You've got to have a good grip so that you can move it around. Okay, I can move that around with light pressure. There's not a huge amount of pressure with what I'm doing here, and yet the club is not going to come out of my hands. If you feel like you have to strangle the club, hold it tightly, your grip isn't right, okay? You should just hold it naturally, like you would have picked up any stick as a kid. You'd never strangle hold it. So get it in the fingers. You'll know you have a good grip if you can move it in all directions, okay? That's very important. If necessary, sit in front of the TV and practice your grip, moving it all around. Okay, now the wrist action. We want to get an active wrist, so we want to get the club kind of flipping is what you're going to think about. Now, that's a dangerous word for people who play golf. They think flip, oh my God, I'm going to hit it all over the place. Well, the reality is somebody who feels like the club is flipping, what's happened is they've tried not to use their wrists, they've got probably out of position, and then they flip the wrists. Whereas if you get to your top of your backswing and you actively try and get your wrists moving, they won't overwork, they actually work properly. So we want to get the wrists active. So essentially, you need a narrow stance. If you go wide, your body gets more involved. You need a narrow stance. So start off with a narrow stance and just try and hit a very firm long chip. So the idea is only use your wrists. You will find that you'll use your wrists and arms a little bit. So just a firm chip. I've just chipped that out there. It's probably gone 80 yards. And I'm going to keep extending that, like so.
ulnar and radial deviation right now, because that was one of the questions somebody asked, is how do I know I have enough, wrist hinge and up and down? So basically, this is radial deviation right here. This is it, radial. You're hinging up. There's ulnar, radial, okay? So if you go radial and then you go to here, that's a perfect backswing position. So your trail hand is in extension position and you're in radial. So then when you push forward and you start to swing, you unhinge, which is ulnar, and then the club goes over here. So this hand goes into flexion and then your lead arm goes into extension. All right, there's none of this happening. No forearm or arm rotation like this, okay? And nothing of turning the club down. And that was another comment, is what are the forearms doing? So you tell me. So when I go to this position right here, I've now got my radial deviation and I have my extension. Did my forearms move much? Not a ton. There wasn't any of this going on, was there? And by the way, I want you to think it's your entire arm, okay? It's not just your forearm. So I just went here. Now again, when I come down, when I start to push, the lead arm is the one that rotates the most because it is the kind of anchor point rotator, not a puller, not a dragger. It's just as this rotates to support that speed. So the entire arm is rotating. You're not just isolating your forearm. The whole arm is doing it. So there's not really a ton of forearm rotation. You're not doing much of this at all, okay? And that's a very good thing because you're keeping that club face just square to that arc the entire time, and that is what we're looking for. And I had another one about the rolling of the hands and how they get open in the backswing. This is extremely common where golfers will actually get to here really good and then they start to go up, and instead of getting to this position, they actually roll their hands like this and the club gets wide open. So now when they come down, and they try to release, the club is wide open and they're leading a lot of times with the hosel, or they'll hit it in the face if it's teed up and it goes way to the right. That can be a very frustrating aspect of the game because you think you're doing here to here, but you're actually going just like this, and then the club face is open coming down, and then that happens. So that is a very, very big deal. And you want to fix it, just simply practice going to here and just here, like this. And look at that club face. And then come down, and then that club goes through. Now, I always feel my hands are in this area when I am playing my best, okay? That's when I feel I'm striking it the way I want. Now, I had an observation that said chipping is very inconsistent with adding in a little bit of the wrists and the hands, and I'm like, no, because the chip putt, you know, very simple. You just putt with a lofted putter, basically. So let's say you hit a chip just back, there you go. Pretty simple, but you are limited into your shots because once you start getting here, now we have to start actually changing what you thought was the chipping or pitching motion. Now, if you've trained that motion with your hands and in your wrists, just being able to go from, you know, just here, I hit a little soft one, just from here, there, you know, just a little soft chip, nothing to it. And I went here, here, that's what I felt. None of this is happening, so you're not going to be inconsistent that way. But now, if you need to go a little bit further, the putt chip is actually harder to go further, but when you have the wrist hinging back, you can actually carry the ball really easily, and that's just from going here to here. Now, I hope I've answered everything. I talked about rotation. I talked about, you know, just wrist hinge, flexion, extension, how this whole thing works, how the club rolls, and actually about chipping, and a great way to practice, and how I like to get every student to practice is, again, this is your speed producer. You can just hit some little chip shots, just right hand only, just like that. And once you get good at that, then you can start getting out here and doing this. I talked about this before. And keep this arm independent of your body. See how this is just swinging? And then get good at this and then just whack down there. So you're extending, impact, flexion. You're doing this, okay? This is what you're doing. Keep touching the mic, sorry. And then you add in your body. That's what this drill is all about. It teaches you how to use your body. So, when it comes to practicing pocket to pocket, 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 I pulled that one because my body didn't move. Now, if I go pocket to pocket and allow my body to just follow through with it, so pocket, pocket, it goes straight. And when I do pocket to pocket and I go forward, generally the club gets right about here. So I'm not going to eat your lunch for that. Now, basically, you just lengthen it out from there, and then you have yourself a golf swing. It just depends on when you push the club. That's all this is about. That's it. That is the golf swing. If you are late coming into impact, you're going to kind of block it. If you're early, you might hook it. You just have to find your tempo and your rhythm. And rhythm is when everything comes together. So I hope I answered everybody's questions. If you have some more, let me know. But this is extremely good stuff. This is stuff that's going to be saved for the website. So I'm still working on that, but a lot of these videos are going to come down because some of this information is extremely, extremely good. It's going to make you better. So enjoy this and get out there and tee it up.